Hello, my noble band of outlaws. Outlaw Samurai coming at you live with a video. Well, if you saw the beginning of the video, you'll know that this is a response to Gargoyle's recent video. Gargoyle recently made a video about this content creator. As usual, Gargoyle doesn't call people out, which is quite gentlemanly of him, I might add, but in any case, about basically a samurai in period, or swordsman, what have you. Basically somebody who in feudal Japan was using a sword at the time, talked about half swording with the katana like this. Fingers on the edge, stabbing into somebody, full ham-fisted like so. Now, anyone who's ever held a blade or used swords would know that it's not how you half sword. Not at all. In fact, like Gargoyle said, you'll be more likely to lose your damn fingers than actually be able to use a viable technique. And we want our fingies intact because fingies let us use swordies. But in any case, Gargoyle said that in his video he was not as familiar with HEMA as others are. And since I do study both HEMA and Kenjutsu, and my whole actual way of fighting with a blade is a hybrid of the two forms, I know slightly more. I feel like I know slightly more general knowledge than Gargoyle does on the subject. I'm not saying that I'm smarter by any means. Gargoyle is obviously far smarter than I am, but that's aside the point. 90% of people are far smarter than I am. But still, I'm basically doing this video on how I would half sword with a katana. And I'm also going to show how I'm going to murder stroke with it. But first to the half swording. There are two main ways I feel half swording with a katana can be done. Either pinch grip like so, or kind of a, I really don't want to say a monkey's fist, but kind of like a monkey fist kind of thing. Like how a monkey's hand is curled like this most of the time. To do it like so. And there's two main reasons for this. In the first position, really the only thing keeping the blade from moving around in your hand is the strength of your fingers, your thumb, and the pad of your hand. And while yes, as my readily available target will help, you can get decent control and power from this setup, but it's not very structurally sound. Because while yes, you are getting some benefit from your palm and the fleshy bit right beneath your thumb, what's really holding the blade here is just your thumb and fingers, making it very easy to slide the blade. However, on the opposite side, in this position, your fingers can exert full force onto the flat of the blade, your thumb can exert its full force on the flat of the blade, and you also have a backing from the balls of your hand or the upper half of your palm. Thus, giving you far more power in the thrust. This, now, in terms of controlling the motion and direction of the blade, both of these have equal amounts of control. It's just that the monkey fist version allows for more of the biomechanics of your hand to come into play. it's almost as if you are exerting a full grip on the blade, but not putting your hand in danger of being cut by the edge. That's the important part. So I feel the monkey fist style of half swording with a katana would be far more beneficial. That's the first thing. The second thing is, Gargoyle mentioned a technique where you hold the blade like so, and you smash the guard into somebody's head, or you smash the guard into a part of their body. This is what's called the murder stroke. It's most prevalent in longsword style techniques. And Gargoyle also mentioned that the European knights of the time, along with samurai, wore gloves. Samurai tend to wear thinner gloves on average, just as Gargoyle said, so that they could have full dexterity of their hands, their fingers. And yes, while some were made of cotton, most of the gloves that samurai would wear pre-Edo period were mainly made out of silk, because silk was the most readily available cloth material that the Japanese had access to. The Japanese did have leather. That is something that most people don't think is true. The Japanese did have access to leather. It's just that they didn't use leather as predominantly as Europeans did, simply because the Japanese for the longest time did not have large enough stockpiles of farm animals to mass produce leather. As far as I'm aware, most of their leather came from horses, and horses were too valuable a commodity to raise and slaughter just for their leather. Now, in case of the European Knights, the leather gloves that they wore into battle were made of very thick, robust, and thickly tanned leather. The processes to make these gloves were done in a way that it hardened the leather. As far as I'm aware, there was an extensive boiling process. Boiled leather, to my knowledge, becomes very hard and very durable. And that was the kind of glove that they would be wearing during the murder stroke. Now, there is something that is interesting performing a murder stroke with a katana that we don't get with a double-edged longsword. And that is simply because while your bottom hand may be in danger of getting cut because of the physics of how this works, because as you push with your top hand, the bottom hand gets pulled into the edge of the sword. So your fingers are at risk on the bottom hand, but at the top, your hand gets pushed into the spine of the blade. This gives you the ability to generate more force with the top hand, but keep in mind that the bottom hand is still at heavy risk of being cut. Hence why they wore such thick, durable leather gloves in the first place. And before anyone mentions that, the Japanese didn't even do half swording, that's not historical at all, or something like that. The Japanese did actually do half swording. This I would consider as a form of half swording, if nothing else than to simply allow extra power to push up against an opponent's blade. And we see this stance in some Japanese kendoka or kenjutsu practices. I would consider this half swording because your hand is, your other hand is doing something with the blade. It's making contact with the blade in battle. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say on that topic. This is just a quick little response video to Gargoyle. And I guess I should say one last thing. Anyone saying that, if anyone's wondering, just so we get this out of the way, for those of you who don't know the physics behind a cut, allow me to demonstrate. As we can see, I am pushing directly into my hand with the Warrior O. Alright? The flesh around my hand is being distorted. Alright? My left hand is turning white, and so are my fingertips. No mark, no cut. The reason this is the case is simply because pushing a blade into something does not generally mean that you're going to cut it. And I know what you're going to say. Outlaw, but what about when I cut carrots and potatoes and vegetables for dinner? All I have to do is just push down and I cut. Well, the physics of cutting works as follows. Cutting is basically all about resistance and wedging its way through something. To cut something, you have to be able to put more force than that object's ability to repel the object trying to wedge it apart. With vegetables, you're able to put more force than the potato, the carrot, whatever, is putting against the knife to keep itself from being cut. And when you swing a blade, or push a blade along, like say carrots and stuff, perform the slicing motion, you're pushing the blade into whatever you're cutting. You are essentially wedging the material apart. It's the same with cutting paper. As we can see, the sword blade is wedging the paper apart. So that when we swing and we've cut through something, that's why when you see us cut bottles on YouTube, the bottles tend to pop apart. It's because we've literally wedged them. We forced them apart. And when you just push a blade into a bottle, the bottle's ability to repel the blade is greater in that instance because there's no force amplification being added into the blade from either a cutting motion or a slicing motion. Like so. Or see? We do see that it made marks on the paper, but it didn't cut through just simply by letting the blade drop. So, physics lesson aside, every culture that has ever created swordplay has some form of half-swording. Whether it be the traditional mindset of the European version of half-swording, a more, I guess I should say, relaxed version of hand-swording, like with the Japanese, where they mainly use this motion to kind of help power the blade through a block or a parry. Or even if it's just a, like, say you have a pole arm coming down towards your face and all you have left is your sword, to just hold it up like so, and use your other hand to gain leverage to throw the polearm off. There is no culture that hasn't come up with a form of half swording before, whether that's Japanese, European, Chinese, Mongolian, Korean, Indian, Pakistani, Persian, African, South American, North American. There is no sword style that does not have some form of half swording in it, or at least techniques that are similar enough that we can attribute them to half swording. Anyways, that's just my little response video to Gargoyle. All in good fun, all in good content. Let me know if you have anything that you think I missed down in the comments below. Check out Gargoyle's original video. He's the one that kind of inspired this to be made. And until next time, my noble band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai tells all y'all be crazy rednecks, be safe and use your weapons. I'm out. Peace. Hope you enjoyed. And remember, if I missed anything, in the comments, please.